Hello everyone, and welcome to our video for our moss succulent art take and make project. So in this video we're going to go over three things. We're going to talk about the supplies that you should have received with your craft kit or project. We're also going to talk about how to create your project, what it would look like, how you would assemble things, all of those. And then we're also going to look at how you could enter this into the fair. So we'll look over a few different project types with this. So to begin with, let's look at our project itself and the supplies you would have received. So for your option, you did choose whether or not you wanted to use a mirror in your design. So if you chose to use a mirror, we do have our mirrors. Additionally, you will have received a box. So you have your wood box down here, your tray. It also is one that has the hangers already on the back of it. So if you want to enter it as a wall hanging, you do have that option. You also chose your own bag of succulent varieties and moss. So whatever you chose is what you have. Mine are going to look a little different than yours just because I wanted everyone to have a good variety choice. And so I just used some stuff that I had from home. So here is what you are going to want to do for your design. So the very first thing we're going to do is look at our tray. I'm going to move those things out of the way. So for your wood tray, you have a couple of different options. It comes with this kind of weathered look to it already. One thing that you can do if you want to paint your frame or you want to stain your frame, I thought about doing like a whitewash around here just because mine has a little kind of blemish down here. That's why I picked this one so you guys didn't have them. But in this case, I just don't have time to do that for the video demonstration. I may do like a light gray, but like I said, whitewash would be pretty cool too. All right, so here is the next step with your project. So once your frame is done, prepped, ready, and you don't need to do anything else with it, you can go ahead and get ready to install the first couple of pieces. All right, so what it's gonna look like and how it's gonna be different than my project. Okay, so my project, as you saw, I had a sheet of moss. You guys have little clumps. So if you have a mirror, my suggestion would be to install your mirror first. Okay, so you want to make sure that your mirror is installed in a place that it's going to stay safe. You can use a couple of different ways to do this. If you want to use some E6000, you are more than welcome to use it to help glue from the back onto your board. It should stick pretty heartily. You can also use like a Gorilla Glue or a super glue. Today I'm going to use some hot glue because that's what I have. So your mirrors are 8 inches, 8-inch squared. So you can place them anywhere in your project and design. I think for mine, I will likely put mine towards the center. One thing to be kind of cautious of, these are kind of a glass-based project. So you don't want it to crack and you don't want it to break. And hi, by the way, you can see all the little fun things above. So with that, I would either keep it off to the side or do whatever you want to with it, okay? So I'm going to use this project. I'm probably going to put it right in the center just because I have some others. You could put it off to the side, or if you want to hang it vertically, you can hang it center vertically. You can do whatever you want. So that is kind of up to you on that design and style. Welcome into how I create our videos. And so I'm going to go ahead and apply my moss bedding piece. So like I said, my moss is a little different just because I had a roll of moss. And so what I'm going to do is I kind of cut it to match my frame size, and I'm going to glue it down into the mat. And so it'll kind of sit there evenly with it. I'm going to, because mine has like a roll of stuff underneath of it to kind of keep it fuzzy, I'm going to tuck them in, and I'm going to use hot glue to help glue all of that down. You, on the other hand, can use your moss, and if you want to put little dabs here and there, you can. If you want to do where you put your succulents first and then moss around it, you can do that. If you have like little pieces of wood, like a driftwood or whatever, you can add them in there. You can add whatever you want to make it your own. Something I thought about doing is, as I was cleaning out my closet, I found a bunch of fairy lights that I had used for a wedding decoration, and so I'm gonna go ahead and use these. So I'm gonna stick them in there, and then it might be something that I just attach to the back or somewhere on there. I haven't decided, and didn't think that one through because now it's gonna show, but it'll be fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and start gluing these down. So like I said, went ahead and started my glue gun. Now, if you're using a hot glue option, you're going to want to use a lot of glue because this is going to get a little heavy. And if you have like all these extra little fibers, they're going to kind of stick up and they might keep something from sticking down. So I'm going to go ahead and start the gluing process. I'm going to tap that in there, and I just want to get it started so that it's sitting down in here, and then I can come in and tackle it and get it a little bit better. I don't want to press it too much. I'm going to hide this piece over here, so I'm going to go just because I want it to look a little bit more finished. When you're doing this project, it's not one that you are going to want to just go ahead and rush through. It is going to take a little bit of time and planning out how you want to do things. So maybe laying your project out, getting an idea of where you want your design to be is going to be key and helpful. Again, like I said, mine is a little different just because I have the mat. So I'm just laying this down first. It's about time that I use up some of my projects in my house. So one thing I did forget to mention at the top of this is you are going to want to have a glue gun for your project or some sort of adhesive application. I'm just trying to tap that in there as best as I can. This might take up a good amount of glue, and that's okay. You want it to stick. Now remember, when we're displaying these, we might have them hanging on a wall in the home ec building at fair. So we want to make sure that nothing is going to fall off of it. So if you are afraid that something is going to fall down, you might want to make sure that that is secured better. I'm going to go ahead and just add some glue. Now I'm kind of touching up this area. And then I'm going to do that also along this side because I want to tuck that in. So I just overcut it just a smidge, and that's okay. All right, so we're going to finish gluing this all up. Mine is just a little thicker up here. Just in case anyone wants to do a project like this later using some of the supplies I used. I had gotten this from Hobby Lobby a few years ago, and it was a giant roll of moss in their fall decor section, so it would be out right now if they still had some. Okay, and I'm also going to go ahead and while I'm at it, kind of pick some of those little spider pieces off of the hot glue. Okay, so as I'm looking at it, I can see that there's a little bit of opening over here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just glue that in there too. Keep my handy dandy glue gun close. And just be careful with your glue gun so that you don't expose the glue and show it, because when we do these for fair, we want to make sure that everything looks as good as possible. So that's why I'm kind of coming in here and picking all these up. Okay, I see one more spot that I'm going to tackle, and then I'm going to call that good. Which is just right up here. Okay, so now I have my board pretty secured and my moss on there. So it's still a little bit spongy, and that's okay. I'll flip it back around so I know where my top is. Okay, so now I'm going to work on getting my mirror down. And this is where mine is going to be a little different than yours. I would be very, very worried to put my mirror in via hot glue, so I'm going to do it for demonstration. Yours is going to be glued directly to your board, so it's going to have a better chance of staying on there. Again, I would use something like E6000 or some liquid glue or liquid nails, anything that's going to help keep your mirror in your box better. Okay, so right now I'm gonna just kind of set mine off balance because my design and my items, I have more like these types of things, and so and I also have some pumpkins, so I'm going to kind of layer it a little bit more over here. Here's something to think about when you are doing a design project like this for home design and restoration. It's going to ask you about the principles and elements of design, one of them being balance. Balance is, how does it physically look? If I would just attach the mirror here and hung it on a wall, it might look like my mirror is weighing it down a little bit more to this side, just because I have stuff here but not so much here. The only thing that might save that is the fact that I have full moss on this side, versus if I put it over here, it might look a little heavier on this side because this is a little scarce. So you want to visually lay it out where you feel it looks best. So maybe put it down, take a step back, and kind of decide, is that where I want to put my item? Once it's on there, it's on there. You cannot change it. So just be aware of that as you go through. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and secure this over here because, like I said, I like that there is some moss on this side. I could go in the center if I wanted to. Usually I like something a little bit more symmetrical, but I kind of like the idea of having it a little bit off-centered on this case. So again, I am going to go ahead and secure this. Again, I would use something like E6000 to your board. I would not attach this directly on to a moss surface because there's a good chance this is going to get too heavy and fall off. So I am trying to get this on as thick and heavy as possible. I might even come back in later and attach it. Remember, hot glue, you can't go too long because it will get cold on you. So I'm going to say that's good. I'm gonna get fingerprints on my mirror, and I know that, and so I will clean it before I enter it at the fair. And see, there's a little bit of a gap right there that I'll come back in and touch up. But I'm gonna go ahead and say this is gonna be attached. If you wanted to attach it a different way, you are more than welcome to. This is just, like I said, for what I'm doing. For right now, this is how I'm gonna attach it. Again, not my suggestion to do it. I would do it directly to the board, but it's a little bit more of a challenge to cut this moss out around the mirror. You can do it. It is possible. I'm just choosing not to. Okay, so let's talk about little succulents. Now, you have been given a variety of little succulents. You have some big, you have some small, you have a variety of colors. As we said earlier, it's all about balance and color. So we try to keep all of similar colors together, or something that's going to complement each other. So for example, I had a pumpkin succulent kit. So I'm going to just pull everything that came in that kit together. So these are what came in there. Together, they are complementary. They do look good in one piece. However, I knew that two little succulents and a little foam ball piece is not going to fill in what I wanted. So what else did I have? Well, I have some eucalyptus. Now, the eucalyptus does have a little bit of red to it, so it kind of pulls to these. However, it's a little darker green than what I would have. The thing I'm seeing for me personally is that it might not go as well with my orange pumpkin as if I would remove that and supplement it again with maybe another green. So I'm gonna just kind of play with it. I like this one's better. So I kind of like the green on green. You could also do something that gives a little pop. You do want an accent. Well, because this eucalyptus is not quite given the accent I want, what did I have that could tie it together? And I had these in my office from another project. And so they're just little tiny succulent buds that I would probably either take off like that, so they just kind of came off, or I would cut them. And that is something I'm also going to suggest for you. When you are doing this project, you're going to want to come down and cut or clip from the stem so that they can sit a little nicer on your board. Okay, so you can use floral, they're like a floral cutter. I call them side cutter is what they are. I would suggest not using something like scissors because these might not be able to cut through the plastic, or if there's a wire in there. Sometimes they have wires so that they can bend, and it looks like these do not. So I would be okay, but just be aware of that if you would try to cut them with anything like a regular scissors, they might not work the way you want. So again, now I'm using these, which is my pop of color. It's gonna look a little bit better collectively in this piece. So that's where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna remove my orange pumpkins. I'm not gonna use them. I'm also not going to use this one just because it has some defects in it. So look over your succulents. If you decide, hey, I really don't like this one, I don't think it's gonna fill my design nicely, that's fine too, and you can do that. So just be aware that you have some options to make them however you want. So, all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and get started assembling. So with this, I'm going to come through and I'm going to figure out where do I want my highlight flower. So again, remember, we're trying to cut these pieces down. This should sit fairly nicely on my board like this. So I might put this one in the corner, and then I might use something that's going to highlight around the frame this way. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab some more hot glue guns. We're talking balance, and we're looking at the size of things. Are they about the right size? Are they too big? Are they too small for what we need? So I'm gonna go ahead and just add those in. I'm gonna just put a little piece here around that. Okay, so now I have the glue on my succulent, and I'm going to attach it to my board. Now again, you can cut that bottom piece off so that it's flush to the succulent itself, or closer to, and then they are going to glue a little bit better to your board. Okay, so since I only have 2 of these, I'm going to go ahead and say that's good. I'm going to come in with some of this. I like these a little bit more, so I'm going to cut a stem of them. I'm using scissors just because I don't have my floral cutters with me, but again, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, that's what I like. Good to go. Okay, so now I'm going to take these little guys and I'm going to glue them so that they are sticking in like this around my frame, which gives me some dimension. It's going to kind of help them pop, and it's also going to look like it's framing my frame, so, or my mirror. I'm going to go ahead and use a bunch of hot glue because I want this to stick really, really well in my design. And I'm hiding it too underneath my succulent. So that is something to think about, is when you are doing these, you don't really want your glue to be showing. That part is going to be distracting to a judge, and so if you can, try and hide that underneath. If you accidentally touch it, pull out your strings so that you don't have it as much in there, and you can kind of adjust your piece as need be. All right, so I'm going to do that with this one as well. Looks like I kind of got it stuck in there. Stick another glue stick in. All right, so now I have that. The one thing I do have is some glue showing over here. So remember, I have those little complementary pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and just pull a couple of them off. They do come off the stem by just pulling them. Some of yours may or may not. So I'm just gonna pull a couple and go with it. Now, something to think about with floral design is what we call the rules of 3. You want an odd number because it looks more balanced. So we talked about balance already. If I am trying to create a floral arrangement, I might have 3 highlighted big flowers in my design because it's going to look more even and symmetrical, even though we don't think of that. We might think, oh, well, why not just make an even number? It just provides some symmetry all the way around as you're looking at it. So I'm going to try and get my 3 in here. I do not have 3 of my big succulents, so that's going to kind of hinder that rule of 3, but it'll be okay. I'll highlight with some other things. And you might not have 3 of the same type. You might have 3 similar in color or whatever that might be. See, I like that a lot better. It kind of hides those stems. I got one more, and I'm going to put it right down here. All right, so now I have my frame in here. Now, other things I'm going to do is I'm going to add other design elements. I might decide that I don't want to add the pumpkins in here. I might want to just kind of balance it out as is. So I'm going to look and see kind of what I want to do. Maybe it's a thing where I might cut my pumpkin in half and look, because I don't know if I want to. They look a little silly looking that way, so I might cut them in half so that they stick a little better to my sides. But I'm gonna go ahead and take a pause and then come back in just a little bit. Okay, so I am back. I have kind of laid out what I wanted. Now remember, I said kind of lay it out, get an idea. Because you have all the parts does not mean you need to use all the parts. So I decided that I do not want any more. I was going to do a big pumpkin, decided not to. I'm going to use these pieces if I get to all of them. I like these for trying to go down here and hide them in the bottom of the pumpkins so it's not so exposed. I'm going to go ahead and do that because I like that idea better than sticking like a succulent down there, because you know the pumpkins are sitting on the grass, they're not floating. So I might do that. I might do another one just kind of over on this side, although I want to see if I can get it to lay on the mirror a little bit more. And like I said, I don't maybe want to go all sorts. I might not use all of it, so I might just do a small piece over here. Now, the key to making this look awesome is to know your limit. Where is too much? You don't want to go overboard and have too many things going on, because that's going to distract it for the judge. You might just want a couple of items here and there to make it look a little more full versus everything happening at one time. Okay, so now I am trying to decide. I'm looking at it from up on my camera here. I like my purple and I feel like I need to use them to balance out. But when I'm looking at this, I am also not trying to, if I add something up here, it looks a little too much. So I had clipped some pieces. It just looks a little full. Plus then this side's empty. So I might just take them out. I also don't want to just throw flowers everywhere, because maybe that's not going to look as good in my opinion. You can choose to do so. But I also might not just like stick them in my foliage either, you know what I mean? So I might not just put them in random places, but I almost actually kind of do like that there's a little bit happening along the creek, like the little divots over here. Let me take a step back and I think, let me take them out and see. It's okay to play a game of, is this what I want to do? Is this not what I want to do? I might, because then it kind of balances it. It makes it look a little bit more full as we go through. I might also add just a couple of them down here at the base of my stems. Okay, I'm gonna grab one more because I want it to be a little more covered down there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and glue these pieces on. Oops, need more glue. So I think that when you're doing projects like this, sometimes the hardest skill to learn is when to stop. So there's going to be a point when we need to not add more because it looks good, but adding one more item, one more color, one more flower might change the whole entire look. So knowing when to stop adding something is just as important in a design process as anything else. So you might say, I'm not really good at doing XYZ, but we will also might say, hey, you have too much in there. Is that something that a judge has told you? Is it just looks a little full? Take this out. A little piece of string there. I'm gonna leave this one right there underneath that stem. I will say in my early years, knowing when enough was a struggle. I did not do a great job of stopping when I need to. So if that's something that you're working on, it's perfectly okay. It's a skill we learn over time. Last one. All right, my friends. So this very much is going to be likely my little box that I make and create and design. So a couple of things as I was going through that I kind of changed my mind on was the fairy lights. Yes, it would look really cool, and if you could incorporate them, that would be really fun too. Maybe underneath your mirror or sneaking out around the sides of it. Maybe threading your wire underneath the moss and putting like a clump or two in there. That could be really cool. The only thing and reason I just decided not to was I didn't have a place to put the box. So I have to be able to put the box somewhere and be able to get it to the batteries or press the button to get it started. So I just decided, as much as I would love to, probably not going to include it in this design right now. Maybe later. Maybe it's going to be that I need to do a different hanger on the back, or maybe I hide it in a corner and cover it with a little bit of moss around it, or like a succulent, so you really can't see it. But this could be a really fun add into a project. So, all right. Like I also said, I did not add the third pumpkin just because it looked a little too full. All right, so let's look at the fair book. What would this be entered in as? So we're going to go to home design and restorations, preferably our design decisions category. So you can enter it in a couple of different areas. You could do it as a C257014 accessory original floral design. If you are already doing a floral design, you could do it as an accessory 3D. Another one that you can do could be in Design My Place. So it could be a simple accessory. Or you could enter it in mixed media in Celebrate Arts. So a couple of different options for you. I had a couple of thoughts of, could it go into visual arts? I think it would be a little bit harder judge-wise for visual arts, because even though you are creating the design and the landscape, it's more, we're looking at visual arts as, okay, these types of mediums, the acrylic paint, the watercolor, those types of pieces, versus things that are kind of prefabbed and you're just assembling it. So even, I mean, yes, you could say, okay, it's inspired by landscape, so maybe you're trying to replicate a favorite camping trip or place like that. I still would maybe recommend keeping it in a design decisions area. You could try it in visual arts if you would like. It's just kind of up to you. All right, so let's review really quick. In this video, we talked about the supplies that you were given and how to use them, including assembly. Remember, please, that if you're attaching your mirror needs to go to the board, and preferably using something like E6000 glue or another high tack glue that's going to keep it, because if we go upright, we want to make sure that this stays in place. We also talked about how to put in your succulents without a mirror. Maybe you're just kind of grouping and moving them around. That would be a good example of use of line in design. So kind of maneuvering them, following curves of things, filling in spaces. So a wide variety of how to create the project and different options for you, along with looking at the fair book and where these would be entered at for fair. Now, I would also say that for fair, these need to come on the Tuesday of fair entry. So for the time of this video in 2025, that is going to be Tuesday, July 29th, 8 to noon in the 4-H home ec building. So that's where these are going to need to be displayed and dropped off for with judging. Now, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to the extension office and we will help get those answered. In the meantime, see ya. Thanks for hanging out.